Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be turn 2 of our old school tactical gameplay. One thing I wanted to address, I completely forgot yesterday. I had mentioned them and then I completely forgot to draw them. We mentioned the luck cards. Now, if you're not familiar with the game, each side for a game can draw a luck card. And a luck card has just a little bit of a possible, a little bit of luck for your side. Like here, friendly fire. Force the enemy player to attack one of their own units. Choose the attacking unit and target. Opponent spends the impulse point and carries out the attack. May not use with groups or off-board artillery. Target unit may not be adjacent. So nothing, well, I was going to say nothing game-changing. A card like that, if you held off onto that card until near the end of the game, that could be a game changer. But generally, they're just a little thing. The game is completely playable without them, and since I had forgotten, I was just about to play the entire game without having a luck card. And even though we're going to pull a luck card for each side right now, that doesn't mean anything because I very well might forget that I even had this conversation with you and draw the luck card. But what I'm going to do is put them on their respective playmat, face up, just as a friendly reminder to myself that they have a luck card. So just a very rough mix-up shuffle. So we'll draw for the American player first because that's the playmat I have on the left. And I'll just set it over there. It drew extra grenades. Your unit has extra grenades for use in any single attack on an adjacent enemy soft target. Add +3 to the firepower of your attack. May be used by any good order squad or a reduced squad. Excellent. So good order or reduced squad. So as long as they're not shaken or broken, we can throw some extra grenades. So I'm going to set that over here on the American play chart. And then the Germans draw Unstoppable. Any single unit may take 2 actions in a row. The enemy may not use opportunity fire on the unit using this card in the course of these 2 actions. Opponent's play is suspended. That's actually pretty amazing. So if I was moving somebody, that's the fact that it doesn't trigger opportunity fire. I could totally run somebody. I think that's the intent, is they're just going to run. That actually might come in handy here. Like, for example, since it's at the start of a new turn and I've got a German stack here, I could charge them into melee. Now, they're close enough that they could probably make that move in a single impulse and enter the house. They might not have enough movement points to cross the wall, run across the open terrain there, that couple of spaces, and then enter. I'd have to look at my terrain chart just to see if there's a cost for wall. Because again, I don't have things memorized. Well, why don't we look, since we're talking tactics here. It says for stone wall is 1 plus the cost of terrain. So it'd be 2 points of movement to hop there, 1, but it's going to take 2 movement points to enter that house. That single card would let this unit charge all the way into that building, and because it doesn't trigger opportunity fire, the American would just sit there and watch. Narrative, story-wise, that's almost like a bonsai charge. They're just coming and they won't stop. A human wave, if you will. That's pretty amazing. Although, what does it say? May not use opportunity fire on the unit. Yeah. Oh, a single unit. Okay, so it's not like the stack. Let's clarify that. All right, so I couldn't move the stack, but if I wanted to harass that group, I could charge a squad all the way in there. Huh. Well, that's something. Oh, BAR. All right. Well, let's just review what we have from yesterday. So we had, let me see if I pull this out enough you can see the board. We had German units on the east side of the map deployment and west side, which are pushing in to catch the Americans and squeeze them in the middle. We have a group of Americans here, a very small group of Americans here. We had a sniper in this house who was eliminated because wooden walls are flimsy. And a German that's about to cross here, he came up and he's about to take this control point. This group of Germans took care of the sniper here, and then this squad. So far, the only casualty for the Germans is there was a reduction to a squad. There it is. So that's a permanent reduction in firepower. It's not like shaken or broken. We had a shaken unit here, but they were able to spin an impulse point and recover. Otherwise, no casualties beyond that. So let's go ahead and follow the chart, the sequence chart. I'm just going to read you the sequence. So I did advance my turn marker, which I'll do right now. So we are on turn 4, counting down. We started on turn 5, we're now on turn 4. Check for reinforcements, which I do have reinforcements. Let me go ahead and show you the reinforcements coming on. Alright, so I advanced the tracker, turn 4, and this is what I have coming on. This is from the setup here. We have a Pioneer unit with a bundle of grenades and Sergeant Vogel. And the scenario says they can come on the south edge or the north edge. So let's talk about that for a moment and decide where we want to come in at. Now, after just kind of thinking about it, I'm going to bring him into the south edge because I'm hoping what I might do with my impulse points this time as a German player is really start to push in the southern flank. I have just a lot of open ground here and kind of an isolated unit. The American units are semi-isolated, but I think really if we can take out this central area, that's where his medium machine gun is, and a reduced squad to reinforce that. Not a super strong. They probably would have done better if I had stuck an officer with them, but I figured units up here would want the officer because they're going to get, I thought they might get into more combat. Same up here. So this again might be another group of Americans that get kind of eliminated. So really, to make sure that happens, we're going to deploy along the southern border here. So the 11 hexes, as they go up and down, I'm going to place them right here. P11 will be where they come on. Alright, so that's how we'll handle that. Okay, so we'll go and check some other sequences here. The next sequence there, we did the turn marker reinforcements. I checked. I don't want to attach change leaders or anything like that. I think they're fine where they're at. Then they're, well, actually, since it's change attachment of leaders, you can do it once. I think what I'm going to do is, even though this can't rally, this squad here cannot get people back. So what I'm going to do is actually change and move Sergeant, I don't know if you pronounce that, Born, B-O-H-N, German. I'm not sure. So I'm just going to call him Bond for now. Bone seems kind of weird. So I'm going to attach him there to the actually good order rifle squad that is with the machine gun. That way, if the casualty one reduces again, then, you know, I can get rid of this entirely, but we'll still have the squad leader. So now that makes his attached squad even more important because not only do they have the actual machine gun, but they have the leader attached. So we'll go ahead and put that stack like that. That's the only leader change I feel I need to make at this time. Same with like attaching weapons. Since squads can carry one support weapon at a time, you could swap and change that as well. So I can move that support weapon from a reduced group to a full group if I wanted. Then we checked for smoke counters. I did not place any smoke. The Germans now have an engineer unit that can place smoke. This is not like some games where, you know, everything is like smoke capable. One of the special things for engineers is smoke. Now that I think about that and smoke, maybe what would have been a good move was actually put that Pioneer unit out somewhere where they could benefit some of the other stacks. But moving up from the south, I think the engineer unit can probably just lay smoke and slowly creep up towards the southern house and then, you know, prepare for an assault with these other squads. Anyway, many things to consider in a short amount of time. Then we're going to go and check for scenario rolls. There are none for this particular scenario. Free rally bog rolls, which is what we would check for if we had vehicles. I have no vehicles, so I'm not going to worry about that. Then we'll do the initiative roll. And probably what we'll do going forward is when I do the sequence, if I think about it, I'll just skip the sequences that don't apply to us and just name off the ones that could apply. So we're going to go ahead and check for the initiative roll. Now, the Americans had initiative last time, but it does say it doesn't really matter. It's just if there's a tie, you just re-roll. So the Americans will go first. So they rolled a 6, which is right there. And the German player rolls a 9. So I'm going to flip the turn marker. Oh, I already had the turn marker on the German side. Oh, I think because the German player had initiative last time, I thought the Americans did. But we're all set. Then we're going to do the impulse roll. I'm going to move you over here to the dice roller, maybe catch this a little better. All right, this scenario shows Germans listed first, so we'll roll for them. They only rolled 5 impulse points, so I'll move their impulse to 5. And the Americans get 1 die 6 plus 3. Oh, okay, luckily plus 3. That puts it at 4. That's rough. I will say, from reading forum posts and Facebook posts, this is probably the more frustrating aspect of the game, is the impulse points. The impulse points represent leadership influence, how well things are supplied, how motivated people are. It takes a lot of different systems and combines it into this one concept of impulse. That's how motivated your troops are in wanting to do things. So if you only had 1 die 6 and I didn't have that plus 3, I'd have 1 impulse point, and I have a lot of troops. That would prevent me from doing any group movements. Now with only 4 impulse points, not a whole lot I can do. I could do a couple of group moves or group fires if the Germans presented themselves. But that's tough. So going from 8 last turn to 4 this time, that's like half the stuff I can do. And then the Germans, they had 9, and now they're down to 5. So again, almost half of what they could do from last time. That really is going to get the player thinking about how they're going to move troops this particular turn. So we'll look at the board and see what the Germans are going to do. All right, what I've decided to do is I'm going to move some of these units here in the south. Again, I want to try and maybe put together a push. I'm going to have to move over here, and then we'll push up. So I'm going to see if I can get a squad to maybe kind of come over here, both of these just to meet over and start pushing up towards that house, kind of pincer move it. But with 5 impulse points, right? I just got to be careful about that, because even with a group move, you still have to pay 2 impulse points for the units. But I can move 2. It just would make movement more efficient. But there's no leader here, and they're not stacked. So we'll go ahead and start with that gentleman. Now the bocage is, what was the movement cost for bocage? 2 plus cost of terrain, and the wheat field, there's only 1 movement. So that's going to be 3 movement points to hop into that. So we move here for 1 to clear. And I check, there's no line of sight from any American unit, and then we just pop right into that. So 1 movement point to get there, 2 for crossing, and then 1 to get into that hex. Because it's the cost it says is 2 plus cost of terrain. So a little bit of effort to get through the bocage. You got to push their way through. All right, so that's the first German unit. I am reducing its impulse points, and I am putting a moved. Now they're stuck unless I played that unstoppable card. Any single unit may take 2 actions in a row. The enemy may not use opportunity fire on the unit using this card in the course of these 2 actions. I'm going to hold on to that a little bit. I might use that with this. Well, see, then it's still just a single unit. Yeah, I don't think that's the time to use this card right now. So we'll go ahead. That unit's done. Then we got to look at the American player. Now the American player still has limited options. I don't think I've got line of sight. Let me just move that control marker. Yeah, I've got line of sight here to this group, and I still have line of sight here. Now, the wheat field that they're in it gives defense a +1. Actually, they have the bocage, the wheat field. They have a defense of 3 because of terrain. This stack over here has a defense of 4. They're actually a little more susceptible to fire. It's only 1 squad, but here's the stack. Now, because we shifted leadership, Shooting into this one group here might actually still be the best option, because I will go for, instead of worrying about trying to eliminate this one, I definitely want to try and hurt this squad here in the stack, because it has all kinds of stuff attached to it. So that's what the American unit is going to do. So with his 4 precious impulse points, he's going to do a group fire. So in here, I've got the 1st Rifle Squad that we were able to rally from a shaken state, and then this rifle squad here, which has the BAR. So 2 full rifle squads, and they're all in range because of range of 6, but we've got 2 defense for the wall, the bocage I should say, and then 1 for the wheat field. So that's 4 firepower, plus 5, that's 9 firepower. He only adds to the roll that we make for hitting, so he's not going to add to the inherent firepower, but still plus 1 to the die roll is pretty good. So let's check that real quick. Oh, yeah, and the defense is going to be 7 for this German unit. Let's see here. Let's put him on camera a little bit better, because it's 4 for his defense, 3 for the train, so that's a 7. I've got an offense of 9, so that's a difference of plus 2 that I'll be rolling on. So let's roll some dice and see what kind of damage we do. Here comes the die roll for that attack. Oh, we didn't roll very good at all. It is 6 plus 1 from the leader. So we'll be checking a 7 on the 2 column. So let's take a look at the 2 column. So I'm just going to line across here. You can't see my finger, but I'm going to move it in here. Trying to make sure I keep on the correct line. All right, it is broken. So we got to make a gut check. Broken is going to be horrible if they fail. The gut check, I had to move my chart. Gut check for the Germans, if you can see that there, is a 7. Let me just twist so you can see the dice roll. All right, let's see if they make it. Oh, they did. Yay. All right, there you go. They rolled a 7. So they are not broken. Oh, boo-hoo. All right, just so you can see the game mechanics here going. That was 2 impulse points because that was 2 squads that fired. I just realized I shot at the wrong group. I told you I wanted to shoot at this group, and yet I ended up doing all the calculations for here. I completely forgot. I told you my memory is shot. But either way, that would have been a difference of 1 on the chart, because that would have been on the plus 1 column. Let me see. It still would have been a broken result, and the Germans still made their gut check. So even though I can't remember what I'm doing moment to moment, that actually did not hurt the game at all. So I'm going to go ahead and put this reduced feller back in the stack. I'm going to go ahead and put them all back in the stack. Sergeant Barnes, I think I had him attached to that squad. It doesn't, at this point, it really doesn't matter who he's attached to, because his bonus applies to everybody. It's just if in the future, if all I had was that rifle and BAR, I would want him attached to that. But right now, his bonus affects everybody. Now, but that might be important if I ever had to fall back, because if I moved this squad, the leader would automatically move with it because he's attached. So in the future, I might change, just depending on how casualties shape up. But anyway, for now, I'm going to mark them with A fired. And I got to think about what the German wants to do in response. Moving some troops on the south, that might just be what I continue to do. Because again, I'm trying to consolidate with my few impulse points here, my southern border. So we'll go ahead and move this fellow. And again, I checked line of sight. There's line of sight from the hex up here down here, but it's out of range. I have a range of 6 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I move this gentleman over here, he's safe. But what we'll do, instead of crossing the wheat field here, we're just going to kind of go across. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're not going to cross the wall and go into the wheat field. So that's his 4 movement points. So just to kind of, not to make it too dizzy, but maybe make a little smoother transition. That's his 1 impulse point. And then I'm going to place a moved marker on that individual. So the German player is done. So now it goes right back to the American player, and I have to think of what I want to do. Actually, what I can do is I'll fire again. This time I'm going to try and remember I'm firing at this stack. They have a defense of 10 because, well, let's see. I might be wrong. Let me redo my math. It's I'm attacking the squad with the leader. So that's 4 defense inherent for the squad. And then it was +2 for the stone wall and +2 for the woods. Can't think of what these things are called. So that gave him a total defense of 8, and then we know that they have a offense of 9. So that's a difference of 1. So I'm going to roll my dice, add my +1 for the leader, and just see how we do on the +1 column. All right, we're over here in the dice bucket. So I'm going to grab some dice, roll. Oh, whenever I see a 1, let me move this other one in the camera view. Okay, well, not horrible. That's a 6. +1 for the leader is a 7. So let's take a look at our chart. All right, cross-indexing, 7, 7, 7, 7. Broken. All right, broken. So we got to make a gut check. Let me just slowly rotate. Again, not trying to cause whiplash or motion sickness. Germans have a 7 for their gut check. And they rolled a 7 again. All right, so that's great. And then let's see here. Let's see how smooth I can make this transition here. Because that was a group fire once again, I'm going to spend my 2 impulse points. 1, let's see, 2 to the 1 to 0. The American player has 0 impulse points left. And then, again, slowly moving, not trying to cause whiplash. Boom. Everybody's safe. They get put with a used. All right. Well, that's not terribly bad for the American player because they're on the defense. Obviously, you're trying to reduce, break, cause havoc among the enemy troops. But as it stands, the burden of moving into control spots is still on the German player. Now, because this is used, one thing I could do is move these folks across and do a melee. Now, once I move out into the open, I do have the option to do intensive fire. Intensive fire, I had just got done reading. I thought I had a little chart with that on it. But basically, intensive fire, I was looking at it in the rule book for something else. Let me just grab that real quick for you to explain what intensive fire does. It does give you a chance to shoot when your unit is used. However, it does cause some problems. And I'm just going to find it real quick. It's only a few things. Intensive fire. It's rule entry 85, page 16 of the 5.5 rules, which you can download from the website, Flying Pig Games. Go check out the OST 2 page and then look at the rules for yourself. It says a unit can use intensive fire, or a used unit, and it's used. The unit is automatically shaken after using this option, and an intensive fire marker is placed. Intensive fire modifiers have -1 to firepower and -1 on any to hit and attack rolls. Unit can perform no further actions for the turn remainder except self-defense and melee. The thing is, it doesn't say that it costs an impulse point. So that's why I would like to use it. It's just that I don't know if I want to automatically put a unit into shaken, because if the intent is for the Russians to cross into melee, it might not be worth it. However, they will be in the open when I use the intensive fire. Now, the thing is, let me think for a second. Let me put you on hold for a moment. Let me go freshen my drink and think about what I want to do here. Okay, I was just refreshing here, and no, you cannot do intensive fire for free. That does cost an impulse. So as I was thinking about what to do with that stack, and that's why I want to confirm, it didn't sound right that it didn't cost an impulse point. Everything you do costs an impulse point, so that's why I confirmed. So this unit right here, I mean, they're done. If I had impulse points, then maybe I could think about a group fire with my intensive fire, but they're kind of used up. So actually, probably the better thing I could have done, I mean, I was hoping to score some hits, which maybe could have caused some shaking up. I'm pointing at the other unit you can't see. Shot at them, shot there. So really, just in that action alone, they've kind of put themselves in a very precarious predicament because no intensive fire is available. Because I really thought about doing that, doing like a group intensive fire as they cross over here into the open, which would have made it so much easier to put all that firepower on them. But yeah, I didn't really think that through as well as I should have. So the Germans are going to probably go ahead and do a group move and just march their way on into that hex so they can conduct melee and see if they can push them out. Now, it will be a little bit trickier for the German player because they do have a reduced squad. Probably what I should do is still move up. I have a squad down here that I was going to bring up to try and reinforce them. And then on maybe like the next turn, we'll make that cross. But the American player, suspecting a charge, they might not want that to happen. They might hold back and wait for them to cross and then do opportunity fire instead of intensive fire. So I think right now the German player should probably go ahead and cross now with what he has. So it's going to be 2 for the wall, and that's just an open spot. So basically 2 and 1. So that's 3 movement point. It doesn't even have enough to get across. That's right. We already talked about that earlier. That's tough, but I can move them like right here so they can try and get into that house next turn. We hope the Americans will get initiative. If they do, then they'll unload a whole lot of hurt into that group. So crossing that wall. Let's see if I could have saved some points. I was here. 1, 2, 3, but 2 to enter the house. So actually we're still short. Still short, lads. So we'll go ahead and put that stack on moved. But now that's 2 impulse points. I'm gonna adjust my tracker. But here's what I can do. The American player has no more impulse points. The German player has 1 impulse point. If I come back here for my second action, they can go ahead and fire. So they're going to try and soften up that American group there before they take the dive to force a melee next turn. So we'll have to flip that to used here in a minute. Now, it's not going to count as moving fire because they didn't move and fire in that last impulse. Basically, they've rushed up to the house. Now they're in position around the house. They're shoving barrels in windows and things like that. And they're trying to pour the firepower on at point blank. Now, on my chart, we do have a modifier, firepower modifier. Since it's an adjacent target, it adds +1 firepower. Now, that's not per unit. That's adding it to the group or like the attack. So what I'm going to do is double check firepower. So I've got 2 for the reduced, 4 for that guy. So that's 6 total. 2 for him. That's 8 total. Plus the 1 for adjacent. So that's 9 firepower. And the squad they're going to shoot at is the... they're going to shoot at the squad with the leader. Because again, grouping with a leader is super powerful. So the squad with the leader is this one here. So they're going to shoot into that group there. So it's a 4 defense +1 for the house. So I already forgot what I said that was. 2, 4 for that. That was 6, 8. Okay, so it's 9 firepower. So they're going to be rolling on the +4 column. That wooden house is pretty flimsy. Their bullets are just shooting through that thing like Swiss cheese. So let's do a roll and look at our +4 column and see what kind of havoc we cause. Now, because they have a leader and it's a group... Oh, wait. Haha, I can't group fire because of my impulse point. I completely forgot. I got so excited. I only have 1 impulse point left. So what I'm going to do is we'll have to reduce this by 2. I can't involve them. So it's actually going to be 4 firepower for the rifle squad +2. That's 6. And then +1 for Jason is 7. And their defense is 5. So actually I'm going to roll on the +2 column. Not as deadly as I thought, But again, it really gets you thinking about your impulse points and how you use your squads in a turn. All right, let's go roll some dice and look on the +2 chart. All right, so here's some dice. Boom. Well, that's a 5. +1 for the attached leader makes that a 6 total that we have. So just flip it over here. So I'm looking +2, 6 come across. Still a chance at broken, and the Americans have a gut score of 8. So I've been very lucky rolling 7s exactly for the German players. Let's see what we get for the Americans. Oh, well, the luck continues. So nothing for the American there. Well, great. So just to clean up here, move the camera. Make this a nice smooth move. That uses their impulse point to fire. Amazingly, the Americans do survive just fine. But see, now we're in that situation where they're adjacent in the open, and when we get a fresh set of impulse points, if the Americans get initiative, they can really tear into that group, and they get put on used. And that is all the impulse points for that turn. So if we go to the end, no melee. We didn't quite make it into melee. Now we would remove unit markers because we're setting up for the next turn. So they're used, they're used. I got a couple moves down here I'm taking off. Then we score victory points. It's not end of turn. We don't check for the extended play. The extended play, I mentioned this yesterday, but I don't remember if I said the roll you need. So once you get to turn 1 and you get to the end of turn 1 and you check for that extended play, both players roll a die 6. And if combined it's a 7 or more, you play turn 0. And I think I mentioned that yesterday, but just in case. Then we check for end of game and then victory. So actually we're just going to keep on trucking into the next turn, which we will film at a later time. So we give you 2 videos here to watch. We did turn 1 and then just now turn 2. Now with the impulse points, I know some folks don't like that concept, but I'll tell you why I actually really like it. It gives a lot of uncertainty to your game. It really kind of gives you that idea, like a fog of war completely, because you just don't know what's going to happen. It represents communication, a lot of those abstracted things that makes it hard for a commander to keep all these pieces moving. And I think it's a very simple, elegant way to represent that. So I have no problem with that whatsoever. Now, oops, I bumped something on my chart. I'm just fixing that real quick. But as you can see, that's going to change also how long it takes to play a game. I think this turn 2 played a lot quicker because I had about half the impulse points to use. The video itself might be almost as long as the first one because I'm taking some time to explain a few concepts. So again, if a person asks how long does it take to play a game, well, it really kind of depends on how you roll your impulse points and how you get to move your troops. And this really, I think, extends to the replayability. This scenario, because it doesn't have set up or forced points where people have to put their units on the map, as you play, like even just this first scenario over and over again, you're going to think about different strategies and different ways to approach how you want to set up the defenders versus the attackers. But even after you've done that, then the Murphy's Law kicks in, right? No plan ever survives first contact. Because once you start checking for impulse points, and that's an abstract way of determining how eager your people are to get into battle and do things, that will change it as well. If you consistently roll high and have lots of impulse points, then you're going to be doing a lot of things with your troops above and beyond what your opponent might be able to do. And that happens. That's just the shift of momentum. That's even a good word for it. Your momentum points. How well you're keeping your troops motivated to do things. Keep that momentum flowing. So I think it's a really good system the more you think about it. I've always kind of had a little bit of an issue in games where everybody has perfect control over everything and you get to do something with all the units on the board, and that kind of makes sense because they're all working together. But I think this is a great way to kind of bring a little bit of uncertainty into your games. When people are really fighting out their real battles, there's no turns anyway, and there's no sense of who's going to be able to do what exactly all the time. Maybe there are fewer impulse points because some of the squads are taking time to reload, bandage wounds, things like that. So I really, really enjoy that aspect. I say that now, but if I'm playing face-to-face and I'm the one continually rolling low, then yes, that is kind of frustrating because I'm not able to get my troops, as many of my troops, moving and doing what I want. And as you start to take casualties in larger games, you really start to feel that push on your impulse points because every 5 casualties, you subtract 1 from your impulse point total. So if you're playing a large game, you still might be rolling well, but then you have to subtract due to casualties. And that, again, is a reflection of the overall morale of your forces. So, take it as you will. I think the impulse point system really, really drives the game and how you approach it. And I'm seeing that here. I have a lot of troops I could do stuff with, but I've focused my attention into a few points where I thought could really benefit from the impulse points. But there you go. That's just some final thoughts on that. We look forward to seeing you on another play. We'll be popping into turn 3 here later on. Thanks.